The streets of Metropolis trembled under the weight of an unstoppable force. Cars flipped, streetlights shattered, and terrified citizens scattered in every direction as a monstrous figure bulldozed his way through the city. Cain Marko, better known as the Juggernaut, marched forward, his massive crimson armor gleaming under the midday sun. With every step, the ground cracked beneath his feet, shockwaves rippling through the urban jungle. Nothing could stop him. Nothing ever had. Out of my way, Juggernaut bellowed, his voice like rolling thunder. I don't have time for your weak little city. Alarms blared as police officers scrambled to block his path, their cruisers forming a desperate barricade. But Juggernaut smirked. He charged forward, his titanic form smashing through the blockade as if it were made of paper. The impact sent vehicles flying, their twisted frames landing in crumpled heaps. Above the city, a red and blue streak cut through the sky. Superman had arrived, his cape billowed behind him as he surveyed the destruction below. His super hearing picked up the panicked screams of citizens, the sirens of first responders, and, above it all, the heavy, thunderous steps of the unstoppable intruder. Superman's brow furrowed. He recognized this kind of destruction. He had seen it before in battlefields where brute strength alone decided the victor. But he also knew that Juggernaut wasn't just strong. He was enchanted with mystical force that rendered him truly unstoppable once he began moving. This wouldn't be a simple fight. Dropping like a meteor from the sky, Superman landed directly in Juggernaut's path. The shockwave of his impact sent debris flying outward. As the dust cleared, Superman straightened, his piercing blue eyes locking onto the towering villain before him. "This ends now, Marko," Superman said, his voice calm but firm. Juggernaut grinned, cracking his knuckles. "Oh yeah? And what are you gonna do about it, Boy Scout?" Without another word, Juggernaut lunged. His massive arms swung like wrecking balls, aiming to crush Superman in a single blow. But the Man of Steel was faster, far faster. He sidestepped in a blur, dodging the attack with ease. Superman countered, delivering a thunderous punch to Juggernaut's jaw. The force sent shockwaves through the air, windows shattering for blocks around them. But Juggernaut barely flinched. Instead, he grinned wider. "That all you got?" he taunted, lunging again. Superman gritted his teeth. He had just hit Juggernaut with enough force to topple a mountain, and yet the behemoth shrugged it off like nothing. He needed a new strategy. Juggernaut charged again, his momentum growing stronger with every step. Superman took to the air, dodging another devastating blow. But Juggernaut's path of destruction continued, through buildings, cars, and anything in his way. If he wasn't stopped soon, the entire city would be reduced to rubble. Thinking fast, Superman zipped behind Juggernaut and unleashed a blast of heat vision at the ground in front of him, turning the asphalt into molten slag. But Juggernaut kept moving, his enchanted momentum carrying him right over the melted pavement as if it were solid ground. "Nice try, Cape," Juggernaut sneered. "But I don't stop for anything." Superman narrowed his eyes. The magic that powered Juggernaut was unlike anything he had faced before. Even his incredible strength wasn't enough to bring this monster down by force alone. As Juggernaut charged again, Superman suddenly shifted tactics. Instead of attacking, he flew directly toward his opponent, meeting his charge head-on. The collision was cataclysmic. Shockwaves burst outward, toppling buildings and sending cars tumbling through the air. The impact cracked the pavement beneath them, sending fissures racing outward in all directions. But neither man budged. They stood locked in place, muscles straining, the force of their wills colliding like titanic forces of nature. "I told you," Juggernaut growled, pushing forward with unstoppable force. "You can't stop me." Superman clenched his jaw. His feet skidded back an inch, then another. He could feel the sheer mystical force behind Juggernaut's charge, and he knew he couldn't overpower it directly. But he didn't have to. As Juggernaut pressed forward, Superman suddenly pivoted, sidestepping at super speed and redirecting Juggernaut's momentum. The massive villain stumbled forward, caught off balance, and that was when Superman struck. With a burst of speed, he flew behind Juggernaut and delivered a crushing uppercut to the back of his helmeted head. The force sent Juggernaut sprawling, his massive form crashing through an abandoned building. For the first time, Juggernaut looked stunned. He shook his head, growling, "You little..." But Superman didn't give him a chance to recover. He needed to end this fight before more of Metropolis was reduced to rubble. With his mind racing, he devised a plan, a way to stop what couldn't be stopped. He just needed to lure Juggernaut into the right position. Taking off into the sky, Superman called out, "Come and get me, Marco." Juggernaut roared in fury, picking himself up. "You're dead, Kryptonian." With renewed rage, he charged once more, his unstoppable force carrying him straight towards Superman. And that was exactly what Superman wanted. High above the city, Superman's eyes glowed red as he prepared for the next phase of the battle. He knew the key to victory wasn't brute strength, it was strategy. And as Juggernaut barreled toward him, Superman was ready to put that strategy to the test. The massive villain soared through the air like a cannonball, closing the distance fast. But Superman was faster. He flew toward the outer atmosphere, luring Juggernaut higher and higher. As the oxygen thinned, Juggernaut's movements became sluggish. He gritted his teeth, trying to fight off the dizziness overtaking him. "You're tough on the ground," Superman called out, "but you're not built for space." Juggernaut's eyes widened as he realized Superman's plan too late. With a sudden burst of speed, Superman grabbed Juggernaut by the chest and rocketed upward, straight into the vacuum of space. The unstoppable force began to panic, thrashing wildly. For the first time, he was truly stopped. Superman released him, allowing Juggernaut to float helplessly in the zero-gravity expanse. His enchanted momentum meant nothing without solid ground to push against. Juggernaut's roars of rage were silent in the soundless void. He flailed, trying to push himself toward Earth, but there was nothing to gain leverage from. His immense strength, his unstoppable momentum, it was useless here. Superman had found his weakness. Without ground to run on, Juggernaut's power was neutralized. Superman hovered nearby, arms crossed. "Not so unstoppable now, are you?" Juggernaut clawed at the empty air, his body spinning slowly in the vacuum. His enchanted armor protected him from the harsh environment, but it couldn't save him from his own helplessness. He growled, furious, but he knew Superman had outsmarted him. Superman watched for a moment, ensuring Juggernaut couldn't find a way to break free. He was powerful, but even his magic couldn't create force in a zero-gravity environment. Satisfied, Superman turned toward Earth. "I'd love to stay and chat," he said, "but Metropolis needs me." With a final glance at the stranded Juggernaut, Superman rocketed back toward the planet, a red and blue streak cutting through the darkness. Juggernaut floated in empty space, powerless for the first time in his existence. His fury burned hotter than any star. He would get back, somehow, some way, and when he did, he would make Superman pay. But for now, the battle was over, and Superman had won.